Okay, so welcome to this week's Chen chat. So date again, 17th of November. How does this happen? It seems to move so fast week by week, really. So welcome to the 17th of November 2025. This is this week's Chen chat. So what we're talking about this week, which is a good question. So basically in the week, Jayne popped out on social media a couple of pictures, basically. One was Stillness Speaks, and the other one was Trust in Divine Timing. And we thought we'd do something a bit different for a change. So we thought we'd mix things up, put out two kind of oracle pictures, really, that Jayne created. And the idea is that with those two pictures, people would look at them and then be kind of drawn to one picture or the other. So for those of you that did this kind of exercise, a bit of fun, you'd have been drawn to either Stillness Speaks or Trust in Divine Timing. Stillness Speaks was a picture of kind of sun going down, basically, over the kind of sea, a very kind of quiet picture. And then Trust in Divine Timing was a picture of clouds with a kind of gateway and a person basically ascending, I think would be the right way to say it, really. So hopefully people did actually look at the pictures, find that they were drawn to one or another. And the idea is that I'm going to talk about my kind of versions of those two cards, what I was drawn to, what worked for me, potentially what works for you or what you were drawn to. And then we'll get Chen to come in and give his kind of definition of those cards, what they mean really from his perspective and kind of how that works. So I'm just going to check that the chat box is open so that we can talk to people. If you've got questions, pop them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them, as we tend to do. It doesn't have to be about this particular podcast. It can be about anything really, but we'll try and cover them. Certainly until Chen comes in, at which point obviously my eyes are then closed and he isn't reading the screen. So from that point onwards, it will be just kind of Chen. I'll just get Jayne to give me a quick sound check to make sure that things are coming in loud and clear. It looks okay my end, but you never do know with these things. And there's no point doing a podcast that's got terrible sound, of course, either really. So if you guys can hear me, if you could just let me know, that'll be really good. And how it sounds, even better, which is the most important part of the conversation. I've got Matsumi joining. So hi, Matsumi. Glad to have you here. Okay, so we'll just wait to get a few people on. Jayne's here, loud and clear captain. That's the first time I've been called captain. I might need to remember that for a bit later when I need a cup of tea. The captain's thirsty. Captain's always thirsty on this ship. Okay, so that's good. So sound's working fine. And we're obviously coming over loud and clear, which is great. So this week, so we're talking about, for anyone that's just joined, Stillness Speaks and Trust in Divine Timing. So if you haven't had time yet to do that, just have a think about which card or which wording really would work for you. So two different cards, Stillness Speaks and then Trust in Divine Timing. So basically pick one in your mind, the one that you're drawn to, and then we'll basically cover the kind of definition of those cards, what they kind of mean, what they could mean for you, or how you would interpret them yourself, I guess, as well, to a certain degree, which, of course, is the whole point of spiritual progression and development, is that everybody is on their own spiritual path. Chen always says we walk the lonely path on our own because it has to be done on our own. We don't walk the spiritual path with other people, and everyone is on their very personal path for themselves with their own trials, tribulations, lessons, experiences to learn, really. And I think that's what kind of makes life interesting for those of us that are on our spiritual path, is that we know that this is a path that kind of never ends, really. It's a place that we find ourselves. It changes by the day. We know that we get tested along the way quite often by family, friends, loved ones, people that we work with, work colleagues, acquaintances, people that we meet out in the street. So we know that we kind of are in this place where people are brought into our life for different reasons. And sometimes they're negative to us and sometimes they're positive. But it's all about us kind of learning to adapt, change our life, review our choices, try not to make the wrong choices time and time again, and sort of move along that path, that spiritual path, in the best way that we can, really, for us. So I think that's my kind of experience, is my understanding of my own life, the way that things work. That's how I that's how I see things and view things, really. When opportunities come up to develop, opportunities opportunities normally mean problems. So when problems come into your life, it's how you adapt to them, because we know that we can't change other people. We can only change ourselves and our reaction to other people. So when things are happening in your life, rather than looking on the outbound version at the people or the things that are happening to you, I think it's always worth just stopping for a second and just look at you and think, how can I react to this situation? What things can I do differently to things that I did last time that this same situation came up? And how is that going to work for me, really? So it's about changing the way that we choose to live our lives, the things that we do, choices. And therefore, of course, different choices will automatically bring about a different experience. If we make the same choices, we get the same result, effectively. So that is the key, I think, from that perspective. Okay, let's just turn my notifications sound off on the PC. There we go. Cool. Okay, so these two cards, so Stillness Speaks. So for me, really, Stillness Speaks. So for those of you that have pulled the Stillness Speaks or chosen Stillness Speaks as a kind of card in this topic, really, it's kind of a specific energy, I guess, really, from that perspective. So that card kind of appears when life becomes loud. The mind's overthinking, we're kind of overwhelmed. Lots of us find there's so much attention for our time, and emotions are swirling around continually, and we kind of lose our clarity, I think. And these days with social media, with jobs, families, work, everyone's overwhelmed with information. And I know that for me, you can open the phone, look at your social media accounts, and you just get kind of this never-ending list of things to watch, do, most of which is actually not very relevant really to what you like to watch or do. But for some reason, these social media algorithms show us these clips or these TikTok videos or Facebook posts. And quite often, of course, it's not actually that interesting. And I think as well with Facebook, it seems to be, there's a lot of adverts. I know from my feed, for every one interesting post, there's probably two posts that aren't interesting at all. Probably 4 or 5 adverts. So it's almost like most of the time you're watching adverts as opposed to the things that you'd actually be interested in, which is probably be interesting to know if that's your experience. So if you could put your version of that in the chat, it'd be interesting to know if we're all seeing the same kind of version of social media, whereby we're seeing adverts continually and we're not really seeing interesting posts from our friends and the people we actually want to see from. So this Stillness Speaks card is kind of all about that, really, from my perspective. Stillness is not really the absence of movement. It's the place where truth's going to have room to appear and to surface. When we become still, even just for a moment, our energy gets time to kind of stop and recalibrate, and the noise settles. This continual social media drive, things around us, lots of noise. And that higher part of us, that higher self, can step forward. So we need to create silence to actually allow that to happen. And I think most people these days don't really have any silence in their life because, again, there's so much competition for our kind of mindset, our attention. Everything is basically demanding. And if we live in cities, there's a lot of noise. There's the sound of sirens continually. Again, your mind doesn't really get a space to relax and to stop. I think about people that used to live in the jungles in time of old, and people still do now, of course, native people. But you think if you're living in a natural place, not a city, then stillness is around all of the time because you're around nature, you're around trees, around animals that live in jungles and places like that. So there's an awful lot of stillness and time to stop. But in urban environments, the mind doesn't ever get time to stop because it's just continual noise, attention. And if it's not that, it's the phone, social media, jobs, work. There's always some sort of demand for our time. So it's no wonder that by the end of the day, most people that live in very urban environments are absolutely shattered because you haven't really had time to stop. And there is no time to stop your emotional space and actually find that time where you can just settle down mentally and emotionally. So in the silence, quite often, that's where the answers tend to lie. And answers that felt quite distant suddenly become obvious, but we have to stop to find them. And I think this is why meditation as well really is so important. Even if you only meditate for 4 or 5 minutes a day, just find somewhere to lie on a bed when you come in from work, stop, just literally close your eyes, quick bit of grounding, just bring yourself back to kind of a coherent still space and listen to yourself, listen to your own thoughts, and just get control of your mind and just allow that kind of positive energy in to kind of refresh and re-nurture yourself. So the Stillness Speaks card for me is about kind of the solutions that you're looking for already within you. You just need to stop to find them. And the guidance that most people are looking for isn't outside, it's inside. You have to go inside. And to do that, you have to stop the noise. So we've got to kind of stop and break away from that continual humdrum of noise to find the guidance from our higher self, that higher part of us, really. And our intuition is the part that's speaking to us quite softly, and it's the part that gets overridden. So we all know that we've got this intuitive side to us, which effectively is spiritual, generally coming from our guides. So again, but to listen to the intuition means to stop and to push that kind of ego mind back, where those thoughts are continually coming in, driving you for the day, reminding you of all of the things that you need to do. So we have to stop that completely to be able to listen to the intuition that sits behind there. And it's the softly spoken part of our subconscious awareness, really, that we need to kind of pull forward and listen to. So I think really for people that have chosen the Stillness Speak card, from my perspective, really, it's kind of stop pushing, just stop, pause, listen. The next step that's coming will reveal itself when you can find the time, basically, to stop. So hopefully that kind of gives you, well, certainly my version of what that card would point to, really, from for those of you that kind of picked that particular card. And the next card that we put up was called Trust in Divine Timing, which kind of gives it away, really. It's the kind of message with a different vibration. So that card, or that kind of card or topic, arrives generally when we're kind of feeling impatient, when we're doubting our path, when we kind of question why things take so long, we don't seem to get the answers that we need. Or if we're wondering if the universe has kind of forgotten all about us altogether, really. So trust in divine timing, meaning whatever you're waiting for to happen, you just need a bit of patience to sit back and expect it to happen. Align yourself with the energy of what you're waiting for. So the truth is nothing is late, I guess. Nothing's early, particularly. Everything unfolds at the right moment, energetically, but when you're ready to meet it. And this is the same in relationships. People come forward, step into your life when you've created a space for someone else. So I know quite a few people that are single, and when you actually look at their life, they don't have a space for anyone else. They're busy with their schedule, they're busy at the gym, they're running around seeing parents, family, friends, doing all sorts of things. So if you look at their life and you talk to them and you think, well, the reason you're single is because you don't have a space in your busy schedule for anyone else. And of course, the universe kind of knows that that is the deal. So if you actually want to have a relationship and you want someone in your life, your counterpart really, then of course you need to make the space for them to start with, and you need to align yourself with the person that you want to be in your life, and then wait for the trust in divine timing to kind of bring that to you. And it does happen. It's just a case of believing it's going to happen. But again, you do need to make that kind of space in that busy schedule, really. And of course, divine timing doesn't really work on human clocks. It kind of operates on frequency, vibration, and generally alignment. We have to align ourselves with the energy, and we have to kind of magnetize that into our life. So again, if we're looking for new relationships, a new job, change of house, we need to change our thought process, change our vibration, and attract that energy in towards us. It's not going to come otherwise, because of course everything is effectively a vibrational alignment of frequency. So when things are right and we're aligned with the right person energetically, they come into our life. But if we're not aligned with that person that we'd love to have, and our frequency is off and we're living in chaos and there's lots of negativity, our vibration is low, so our frequency is low. So guess what? We kind of attract someone that's going to match us in all of those things. We match it with another chaotic person that's also living in chaos, isn't able to control their energy, their vibration, their frequency. And this is why, again, it's all about thinking about changing you first. Change what you want, change what you expect, align yourself with the frequency you want. I remember years ago, one of the things my dad used to say, actually, which was quite funny. We're talking a long time ago now, basically, but he said, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. So if you're going to work every day and you want to move up a level, then start dressing in the same way that the people that the next level up from you dress. Because when you do that, of course, you're changing your thought process, you're aligning yourself with the next level. And of course, the people around you start to notice that, hey, you're dressing differently. You're not dressing the same as us. Well, no, of course, because I'm moving up a level. I'm planning to move up a level. Therefore, I'm dressing for the job that I want to have, not the job that I've currently got. Now, I think it's quite a good way to kind of visually think about it, and that's how energy works. So what we align ourselves with what we want, not what we've currently got. And if we stay with what we've got, then we're going to continue, I guess, to stay with what we do have. So it's about kind of changing our thought process, changing our frequency, really. So divine timing, again, doesn't really work. Human clocks. Sometimes things fall away because they weren't meant for the version of us or the way that we're becoming. And of course, sometimes delay is a protective thing. Sometimes the wait is what prepares us and gives us the space energetically, really, to receive what we've been asking for. And this is the key again, if we're going, say, from relationship to relationship, if there's no gap in a relationship, there's no gap for someone else new to come into your life. You have to create the space. And sometimes that's what kind of we need to think about, is that we need, same with jobs, same with work, same with friendships, holding on to old friendships that no longer work, they no longer serve us. There's no point having them if they're not aligned with your energy, just because those people may have been in your life for most of your life. If you move into a different space energetically, they're no longer going to be supportive with you anyway, but you hold on to them, or we hold on to them because they're old friendships. But if they're not actually working for us anymore, we really need to let them go. And that makes a space for new people, new energy, new frequency to come in. And that's how we start to ascend and move forward on that spiritual development path. It's a good way to think of things. And of course, I'm in my own small sphere, really, I've got to the point I probably only got 2 or 3 friends, because I used to have lots of friends, like lots of tens of friends, but they weren't really friends, they were acquaintances of my acquaintances, basically. So you start off with this big circle and you think, I've got loads of friends, I've got 30 or 40 friends. And then when you think, well, how many of those friends are friends, really? You kind of start to whittle that down from kind of 30 to maybe 10. And then you think, okay, of that 10, how many are people that would be there if I needed them at the drop of a hat, 3 o'clock in the morning? How many would say, yep, I'll be there, I'll be late for my job to come and give you a hand? Most will tell you that they're busy, they couldn't make it, they had things on. So from that 10, you probably end up with 2 people, really, that are what you would call proper friends, as in people that will drop everything for you at a time of need. So we look at some of our acquaintance groups and think, how many people today could you ring at 3 o'clock in the morning and would drop everything and turn up to support and help you? And I'll imagine most of us probably will find it difficult, if not impossible, to get past 4 or 5 probably, and certainly not into the big 10s, 20s, 30s, because that generally isn't the way. But again, from my perspective, I'd rather have 2 friends that are proper friends, people that I actually really connect with, really have time for, that would be there at the drop of a hat, than 50 people that are just outbound exterior acquaintances that are kind of in your life because you're doing something that they're interested in. Generally, you're giving them something they want, which is why they're in your life in the first place. But they're not really friends, they're just people. And as soon as you start to change, then of course those people get pushed out, because again, this divine timing, trust in divine timing, will move them outside your sphere because your frequency's changed and your energy's changed. So I think from my perspective, really, that second card, trust in divine timing, is all about that reminder that the universe isn't ignoring us at all. It's organizing things behind the scenes in a way that supports our highest vibration, frequency, timeline. And that's quite a nice way to think about it, really. And if we start to live in a way that embraces that, then the guides are basically saying, our spirit guides are basically saying, trust the process. What's meant for you is already on its way. You just have to hold the focus and find the patience to allow that divine timing to bring it into your space, basically. So hopefully that kind of gives you my kind of 2 versions, really, of those 2 cards. So stillness is all about the alignment, really. Divine timing is about delivering the outcome of what we want. Stillness is that inner work coming from inside us. Divine timing is more the external part of it unfolding, really. So one is kind of preparing us for what we need. The other one it's really rewarding us. So that's kind of how I tend to see things. So have a little think about how that would work for you, what your take and opinion is when you think about those two words or you pick those two cards. What did you kind of think you were lining to? And what did you think was kind of working for you from a guidance perspective? Was it your intuition choosing one of those two cards or those two words? Or do you think that was coming from you personally? Was it a higher self point? Again, just take a moment to stop whilst we're listening to this podcast and just to have a think, okay, I aligned with one card. What does that mean for me? What did I think it meant for me? And is it, or is the outcome something that I've yet to wait to happen and to wait for? Okay, so I think that's my take on those two cards. So I'm going to get Chen to come in and talk about stillness and divine timing and see what his opinion is. I'm sure it'll be probably of interest. So there's no questions I can see in the chat yet. So we're going to hand over to Chen, which will be cool. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Chen. I'm going to set my alarm. So he's got a timeline to work to, because we know he does need that generally. Okay, perfect. So I will see you folks in a little while. Good day to you all. It's my pleasure again to be able to be here this week, to be able to narrate this conversation and cover these various topics. So I think Andrew's done a wonderful and marvelous job to go over his opinions and his version of the conversation, the narration, really. So trust in divine timing and stillness speaks. So two very important considerations when we think about our life. What are we waiting for in our life? Some people are trying to find peace and quiet, clarity of mind. So that would align with the Stillness Speaks card. But most people don't have stillness in their life. They live in chaos. Or as young Andrew said earlier, you may live in urban environments that are very time precious. They're very loud and noisy externally. And there's always something vying for your attention. And then trust in divine timing being the other card. Now that, of course, is a waiting card. So you're waiting for something to happen. So when we say trust in divine timing, what are we waiting for? We're waiting for the universe to do something, to give us something. Are we waiting for ourselves to change something in our own life to make something happen? Now, going back to the Stillness Speaks card, if we cover that one first. So for those of you that were drawn to that card, obviously the answer to start with is you need peace of mind. So people that are feeling anxious, depressed, chaotic mentally would have been drawn towards the Stillness Speaks card. And stillness means to stop, of course, be still. It's what that card is all about. So find some space to be still. Walk out into nature. Go and sit on a park bench. And don't open your phone and start to endlessly scroll on social media. Turn the phone off, put it in your bag so nobody can reach you, and give yourself 5 or 10 minutes of clarity, some personal time to you to stop and detach from everyone, your family, your friends, civilization, urban life. Just connect to nature. You're a spiritual being in a physical body on a planet that embraces your energy. But so many people forget what they are and who they are. So you're not the physical person that you see in the mirror. We know this. You're a spiritual energy, a frequency. You're a vibration. You're presented in a mirror as a form that you see. But you know that the actual reality, of course, is that you're a vibration of frequency. So to stop and find the stillness inside is a critical part of your mental process, to find downtime, to refresh, rejuvenate, and nurture. And this, of course, is why so many religions talk about meditation, because meditation is a time when stillness speaks to us. We stop We disconnect from our lives, we ground our energy into the planet, and then we go inside, we turn inwards mentally, and we can do this with different types of meditation. And there are many different types of methods of meditation that stop the mind and move it inside. But all of them do the same, of course. They identify stillness. They stop the egotistical mind from demanding, from thinking, from presenting problems and timelines, to go inside and connect to yourself. And when you connect to yourself, you can connect to the higher part of your intuitive conscious awareness. And this is the part that we find stillness. This is the part that we find clarity. This is where we can communicate with other energies and entities using telepathy, that all of you can do. Every human being on the planet can use telepathy. But telepathy, of course, is like a muscle. It needs to be trained and used. So this is a very simple method, but stillness is vitally important to rejuvenate your cellular structure, to stop the anxiousness, the depressive thoughts. And of course, the human body, we know, is a machine to a certain degree. Every cell in your body is replicating on a daily basis. Every cell grows older, and then, of course, it dies effectively. It divides and splits, and new cells are born. So you're continually refreshing yourself. And this is happening automatically without you having to think about it. Every cell, every organ is changing. But of course, when you can stop and find clarity and stillness of mind, you can start to focus on that cellular division and replication. And this is how you can slow down the aging process. You can move yourself into a better state of mental health and, of course, physical health too. And this is why meditation is so underrated, because it's the simplest thing to do. Everyone can do it. It just requires time, 5 or 10 minutes of time every day to put to one side, to disconnect from physical reality, to go inward and find that inner peace inside yourself. And this is this method of rejuvenation is the simplest and, of course, the most cost-effective way to find clarity and peace of mind. It costs you nothing to do it, nothing to learn to do it. There are many types of meditations and many people that can help you using guided meditations. So we recommend it for everyone that wants to find that inner peace, that stillness. Just stop for a few moments a day and disconnect from your life, because your life that you think you have isn't your real life. That's the theatre show that you're living in. The person that identifies with a name, a physical body, hair coloured, choosing clothing that suits your personality. That's your theatre, it's your avatar, it's not real. The real you is the spiritual part of you, the frequency, the conscious awareness, and the vibration that's inside, the part that you don't see in the mirror. And this is the part that you need to connect with to find mental clarity and embrace the stillness that is your spiritual self, the real you. So I think that covers the stillness card, really, from my perspective, and such a simple thing to do. So any of you that chose that card or aligned with those words when we talked about it earlier, this is the message. And that message, of course, can be coming from your own spirit guides. It can be coming from yourself intuitively, that you need to find time to stop and find stillness in your life. And everyone can do this. You can sit on a park bench in the middle of New York City, put earplugs in, turn your phone off, disconnect, speak to no one, and just go inside for 5 minutes. And you'll notice that after you start to do this on a repeating basis, you'll start to feel different, because your emotional system, your sympathetic nervous system will calm down. You'll find that you've got clarity of thought and mind, and then you bring yourself to a sovereign perspective where we actually look after that spiritual self that needs to be nurtured, thought about, and embraced. So the next card, or the next wording, was trust in divine guidance. that Jayne's so well thought up. So we do need to give a quick clap, really, because Jayne's very good, and she's been using her trust in divine guidance, because obviously we're working as a team behind the scenes, and I am asking her to do more. She knows where the ask is coming from. She knows where these thoughts are coming from. They're intuitive thoughts that are being given to her, coming from myself and my team, working with her own guides. So she's starting to flourish, and she's starting to develop, and she's starting to walk her own spiritual path in a different way. And I think this is one of the examples in trust in divine guidance, is that you have to trust yourself. This is the key. Guidance is going to come into you from different places. Your own guidance, of course, your own intuition. But what is your intuition? Your intuition generally is a connection to your higher self, that higher part of you that sits outside of, again, the theatre avatar that guides and leads you. But of course, we know that we have spirit guides like myself that are working with all of you every day, putting thoughts in your mind, trying to create opportunities on your path. We can see things that are coming to you in the future, and we guess at the pathways that you may pick. So we try to interconnect your life with the people that you need to interconnect with the choices to get the experiences that you want. So trusting in divine timing and guidance is all about you making the right choices, as well as expecting things to happen. So if you choose nothing, you change nothing in your life, then of course your guides will be working feverishly to try to push you along that spiritual path, a path that you, of course, did choose yourself. You choose the main points of your path before you enter into this theatre show that you call human life. But of course, our job as your guide is to nurture that path, to push you along, to make sure that you go to places, to meet the right people at the right times. But to do that, you have to play your part. You have to do the things that you're encouraged to do. So when you're feeling pushed or having thoughts that come in, and you think, I'm too tired, I can't really be bothered to do this, or I can't be bothered to do that, or I don't wish to change jobs because I quite like my job, I've been doing it now for 50 years, I don't like change, I'm happy to stay in this particular role. Nothing's changing. Therefore, your guides will be trying to push you out of that comfort zone for much better things. That divine timing is waiting patiently for you to change, to make a difference, change a decision so that you can get a different experience. And many people find themselves in these repetitive loops because they feel happy, they feel safe, they know what they do, whether it's your family, your relationships, or your work and your jobs. Safety comes with the pattern, repeats. But of course, it doesn't provide opportunities to grow spiritually. And this, of course, is the problem, is that the longer you stay in the same pattern, the less fulfilled you will feel, the less fulfilled your life will be, and of course, the more frustrated you will start to feel, because the same thing every day, if you fed a dog the same food every day, very quickly you'd have a very depressed dog on your hands because it's eating the same food. There's nothing exciting. It won't race to its bowl to see what food's been presented. It knows what's coming. It's the same food it's been eating for years. Food that probably doesn't nourish it particularly well, doesn't make it feel particularly good, makes its joints ache because there isn't enough oil or nutrition in the food. So think of continual change for your animals, your pets, and for yourself to be a good thing. It creates excitement and fun. A dog fed the same food for its whole life is sure to be a very depressed animal because, of course, dogs are driven by food and exercise. So a dog that isn't walked, fed the same thing, what sort of life is that? It's a continual repetitive prison cell, really, to a certain degree. And your lives are the same. If you don't make changes, you don't do different things, you'll get the same thing on a regular repeating basis, which will build frustration. It will build an inherent dis-ease in yourself. You will become diseased because you're at dis-ease with your environment, with your friends, with your family. Look at people that have inspiration and excitement for life. Those that travel, they wish to see different countries, to meet different people and cultures. It's wonderful, and it's a marvelous way to continually change. Traveling and the environment of travel is continual change, because the people you meet every day will be different. The things that you see will be different. The transportation methods that you use will probably be different. So traveling is such a wonderful way for you to see the world, to see different countries, to embrace different cultures, to meet different people. So think of your life. When was the last time you felt inspired, excited about something? And if you don't, how long have you been doing the same things? How long has that pattern repeat been happening in your life? When was the last time you both went out together as a couple, as partners, as husband and wife, and did something different? Probably a long time. And of course, that's where this frustration grows, because there is no change. And of course, what we're saying here is trust in divine timing. So give your guides the opportunity to bring you new, inspiring things by making changes to your life. And change is the key part, really, for me, for this conversation, is that if you want to trust in divine timing, there has to be change. And if you're not making changes in your life, then you're going to continue to get the same thing. And that will drive this underlying lethargy and frustration. And of course, over time, many people find themselves in disease because life is boring. There is no expectation of excitement and fun. And you know that when you feel excited and you feel fun, your energy changes, your emotional state changes, you have endorphins in your brain, you're kick-started. It's a bit like a car that's being driven at the same speed continually. Suddenly you speed the car up and you have a different thrill. Things come at you faster. You have to make different decisions quicker. So driving that car at a different speed gives you a thrill, gives you an emotional boost. And this is what I would encourage all of you today, listening to this podcast. Make some changes in your life. They don't have to be monumental changes. Just change what you eat, change what you drink, change what you watch, change where you go. Play some board games when you're in the house. Turn the phones off and talk to each other. Talk about your aspirations for life. Create mood boards or spiritual development paths. What will we be doing in the next 6 months? What courses could I take to develop myself? How do I speak to my spirit guides? What do I need to learn? Telepathy. How do I learn telepathy? I need to meditate more. I need to find courses and groups and people. I need to meet new people that are inspired, that are full of life. These are the people I want in my life. I don't wish to just sit effectively in the same space doing the same thing with no life. Because, of course, that isn't really life. It's an experience, but it's not really life. But for you to have a more positive, inspired, emotionally connected life, you have to make changes. So I think from my perspective, that really covers the two cards or the two conversations, certainly from my perspective. You'll notice that my perspective is quite different, really, from young Andrew's. Obviously, he's coming at it from his understanding and his space, if you like. My teaching, guidance, and conversation has come in from a very different angle. But hopefully, it's made you think about your life. Do you need stillness? Do you need to stop? If you have and you can find stillness, do you need to trust in upper guidance? Make some changes, do something different. Try and become someone new. Change your frequency, raise your frequency, learn something new. But ultimately, all of you are here, really. And I've said this to you, Andrew, many times. If you look at every job on the planet, every job means nothing at the end. When you take your last breath, regardless of whether you're a lawyer, a banker, a financier, a gardener, it doesn't matter. When you take your last breath, those jobs mean nothing. But your spiritual frequency and your spiritual development are what you take on to your next life. So time spent now on your spiritual path and your spiritual development is taken into your next life. Time spent now trying to climb to the top of a corporate tree is wasted dead time that won't serve you. So with that in mind, I will say good day, and we will look forward to having a conversation around the same types of lines next week. So I'll say good day to you all, and thank you for providing me with the opportunity to converse and narrate with yourselves. Okay, so I'm back. Time is actually earlier than, okay, so that's cool. Chen's 1 minute 28 seconds early, which is always good. So hopefully that was an interesting chat from Chen. I'll obviously get to replay it a bit later. I'm just going to go back through the comments. If you guys have got any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them if I can, which would be good. Or if you've got observations on the things Chen said, then obviously drop them in the chat for everyone else to read, which would be quite cool. So hi to Vanessa. Jayne's obviously here. Diana Montante is here. Hi, Diana. Good to have you. Lisa Barker and Mimi, which is cool. Ruth, obviously. Mary as well. Good to have you, Mary. I think Gregor is also here. So Gregor was saying, we want to, on some level, be a doctor, lawyer, chef, nutritionist, or psychic surgeon. We sort of think of being one thing. Why is this? I think it's a good question, Gregor, really. I guess a lot of it probably is when we choose our path and we come into this life, I guess we're aligning with a particular type of job description, probably from what we've done in past lives. I guess if we've been a doctor, maybe in a past life, we've maybe used nutrition and, Ayurvedic medicine, that type of thing. Maybe we're looking to move into more Western medicine. So I guess probably past lives probably play an important part in some of the choices that we make. And you see people, don't you, that we know that a 10-year-old child that's an amazing artist. Well, they haven't learned to be an amazing artist in the 10 years they've been alive. They were obviously an amazing artist in a past life. And when they come back into this life, they bring that skill set, very quickly. They can use the brush and obviously, perform art in that way. And the same with, I've seen some videos on YouTube of a small lad who was only about 10 or something, but he was able to play a piano and musical instruments. He was part of an orchestra. So, again, a 10-year-old child isn't going to learn to be that good in this 10 years. Obviously, he was doing that in a past life and brings in the memory and the old kind of routine and pattern to be a musician. And I guess if we look around, this is what we tend to see, is that people that excel in one thing or another, generally it's their kind of calling, probably because they're bringing that skill set in from a past life that they've had. That would be my kind of take, really. I think Gregor's also saying we see some of these things as success. I guess a doctor, lawyer, chef, nutritionist, I don't know if we see that as success. I think success is in being happy with yourself. Certainly from my perspective, I think when I look at people that are at the top of the tree, most of them aren't successful. Most of them don't speak their truth. They might have lots of money, but that's just part of the fiat kind of crazy world, really. But if they're not speaking their truth, they haven't found themselves and who they are, don't treat people in the right way, then they're not successful spiritually. They're just successful in the kind of structural society that we've created, whereby we seem to put these people on pedestals. And if you look at a lot of the VIPs, actors, actresses and things, they're not happy people. They're trying to have the perfect body, the perfect figure, the perfect shape, perfect face, but ultimately they're not happy. And then you see that they fall off that precipice in years to come. So suddenly they end up on drugs, or they've all gone from kind of top of their game on everything in every film, and then they kind of end up as drug addicts or some sort of addicts, fall off the wagon, and then of course they're discarded by their own kind of environment, really. So that's my take, is that success is a happy person that loves themselves, looks in the mirror. We know that we're not perfect, but we can't accept the cards that we've been dealt, and we kind of work with that, really. Okay, Ashley's here as well, so good to see you, Ashley, and Matsumi. So thank you for the wise messages for the divine timing. When hearing timing, I thought of patience in a passive way. It's great to learn Chen's advice would be an active way to be patient. Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it, to see it, Matsumi, as well, actually. Is that timing is kind of patience, really, because we don't know what timeline we're on, excuse me, how that timeline looks, how it's playing out for us, really. So, again, it's a case of doing the right things at the right times and expecting the timing to kind of present itself. So we'll say hi to Magdalena. Good to have you here. And Miriam. Great to have you, Miriam. Jayne. So Jayne's talking about, so we've got a clearing fear and anxiety workshop, which is this Sunday, 23rd at 6 p.m. UK time. So the idea being, really, we got so many people message us that are in fear or anxious or depressed, and it seems to be a very common theme that's running through so many people. So I think Jayne had a chat with Chen, and Chen suggested let's run a workshop. Let's talk to people about why you're feeling fearful. There's a lot of things to be fearful about. If you listen to the media wants us in fear continually. So again, the more we listen to the media, the more we listen to or are part of Facebook or social media groups that people are talking about, asteroids coming that can end the world and nuclear wars and holocausts and all the other stuff that's been going on. Nuclear war was being talked about when I was 18, 19. Fast forward to 56 years old and we're still talking about nuclear wars, and I'm still here. So all of the fear that was being whipped up in the 80s and 90s had no real relevance. It's just part of the system and where it works. So that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to run a fear and anxiety workshop where we can talk to people. I can talk to people. Chen will come in and talk about his perception of why people are feeling fearful, where the anxiety comes from. But more importantly, we wanted to actually do something. We can talk about these things all day long. So we're going to run some meditation. We're a meditation. Chen's going to host it, where we're going to go into your subconscious and find the anchor for fear and anxiety. Where is it? What's created it? Get you to identify it in yourself. And then we're going to work with the spirit teams to come in and clear that energy from your field and hopefully remove those emotions and those feelings. So this is supposed to be a very hands-on workshop. It's not just me talking endlessly or Chen talking endlessly. It's actually kind of boots on the ground. Let's talk about it, cover it, and then do something to kind of resolve it for people, and also to kind of reintegrate with our guides, because our guides are always there working and we work with them continually, and they won't do things for us until obviously we ask them to do things and we kind of connect with them. So in these groups over Zoom, when we're actually working and Chen's hosting these things, all of your guides are kind of connecting behind the scenes. We'll be invoking them. We'll be expecting them to work and to do things for you and to help you. So it's a very kind of hands-on way of doing things, basically. Okay, so if you're interested in that, head over to the website, andy-porter.co.uk. On the front page, you can see there's a kind of big banner there about the fear and anxiety workshop. I think Jayne's popping it out on social media. So it's kind of going out everywhere. So hopefully you'll all be bored of seeing the words fear and anxiety by the time Sunday comes. And if it's your thing or someone you know that could be helped, obviously point them to it. And we'll obviously look forward to kind of running that effectively. Okay, so let's move into Gregor. So he's saying what was meaning was, why do we think of being a where the space is one thing? Sorry, Gregor, I'm not quite sure what you mean. What I was meaning was, why do we think of being a ... doctor where the space is a thing? Well, I guess some of those things, probably family, if you think about it. If most people, if you're in the armed forces or your parents are in the armed forces, they'll probably steer you into the armed forces. If your parents are doctors and nurses, they probably steer you into that profession. If your parents are kind of financiers or lawyers or in the kind of legal industry, you probably get steered. So I would say for most people, we grow up in society. Society is going to point us in certain directions, but primarily it's the kind of significant people in our life, i.e. our parents, that are going to have the most influence on what we become, because they're the ones that are going to be starting to steer us at early years in college or in education. You need to get a degree. If you get a degree, you can go on to be a doctor or a psychiatrist or whatever else. So quite often I think it's our parents that are kind of pushing the agenda, and quite often it's because they didn't do things themselves. I know in my family, my parents were quite keen to push me into kind of electronics and those sorts of things, because my dad was into electronics. He was in the Air Force at the time and was quite into radar and those sorts of things. So I kind of followed his path, primarily because he was sort of pushing me that way. And also I used to see all of those things around the house. I used to see electronic circuit boards and soldering irons and all the things that electronic circuits used to use in the old days, when you could actually build things yourselves, were always around the house. So my kind of passion moved that way from a job perspective when I was in my early to late teens, really. So I would say that's probably what happens for most people. And I guess it'd be interesting for you guys that are listening to give your opinions on the job that you're doing now. Did that align with your parents? Was it kind of steered and guided by your parents or by your friends? Or did you just have a sort of inner knowing that this is who I want to be, this is what I want to do? for me, I've always had the appetite to help people, and it's always been there, but not really in the jobs that I did. I was always working in the IT sort of computer field, so not really helping people particularly, but I sort of learned to be a psychic surgeon through Reiki and lots of the experiences that I had, most of which were pretty negative at the start of my spiritual path. And I wanted to help people so they didn't have to go through the experiences I went through, which is kind of the reason I ended up doing what I'm doing now, really, is to be able to provide some guidance and help and support for people that are finding things difficult and are opening themselves to this kind of spiritual arena, where we know there are a lot of negative things that are there to kind of pull us off our path or to put people in our path to basically pull us away. So there's an awful lot of things like that that go on behind the scenes. So I think from that perspective, that's certainly my understanding of that, really. Okay, so Pam's saying that she's away on Sunday. Good to have you here, Pam. Hopefully you're feeling okay. I know your life's been pretty chaotic over the past few months, really. So hopefully that chaos is going to start to die down and you find some peace, quiet, and that stillness card, I'm guessing, is the one that you probably picked from this particular this chat, hopefully. Okay, so I think that kind of brings this to an end from my perspective, really. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed the chat. Again, as soon as this finishes, we'll get it uploaded to the other kind of social media platforms. It's be on YouTube. We'll probably do some TikTok things with it as well, which would be over to Ruth to do, hopefully. And we'll look forward to catching you guys on the next one. If you've got questions or things or even topics that you're interested in us talking about, just drop us an email, contact@andy-porter.co.uk. Jayne will pick that up, add that to the list of things that we do. So we do like to get feedback from people that follow us, from people that engage with us, and we're very keen to kind of change course as we need to. So if you're interested in something, just drop us a message, and we'll see if we can kind of align with talking about or covering the topics that you're interested in. Okay, so Tzog 420 is a very cool name. A Japanese Shinto practitioner told me Reiki and the symbols are attached to demon and the insights. Interesting. I haven't heard that myself. That could be a good question for Chen, actually. Again, I did Reiki myself, so I kind of know that, put my hands on and went around the bed, that kind of thing. But again, all I really saw was positivity from the people that had Reiki. And this is the way that I tend to align myself, is that when we talk about any of these therapies, it's does the person that's having them feel better? And if they feel better, then it's probably positivity. So whether it's positive energy that we're channeling through us, as in Reiki, or whether, when I do psychic surgery, my guide Chen's working through me. So assuming it is Chen and it's his energy, then the person should feel better. I think when we talk about some of the negative signs, it's normally masquerading entities that come in. So people that are doing Reiki that aren't sovereign, haven't checked their sovereignty and their spiritual protection, they probably have negative attachments or demonic entities attached to them. And then, of course, when they open someone up and perform Reiki or some sort of healing or massage or whatever they do, then, of course, you're opening the door to those entities. But I don't think, in my opinion, that Reiki itself is a problem practice. It's the practitioners that don't understand how to protect themselves and probably have attachments. That would be my take. Okay, so I'm Reiki 3. I've had Chen work on me multiple times. Oh, that's good. Good to hear. Well, hopefully it's been a positive experience for you. And thanks for your comment, which of course is good to cover. And again, like you say, I think with most practices, we've always got the people that know what they're doing and do it well. I think the biggest hole really for me in the whole spiritual arena, covering all of these practices, whether it's Reiki, massage, shamanic practice, hypnosis, is the practitioners don't understand spiritual protection and can have attachments connected to them that actually drive negative behavior and, of course, their negative outcomes on the clients. And that's obviously the part that we find ourselves in, and that's what we're here to try and do, really, is to educate people and help people and to clear them. And that's obviously what we spend all day, every day doing, which most of you will realise, which is good. And that is our calling, really, is to do that. And it's also what we're trying to do with Spirit Release Academy. The Academy is designed as a teaching platform to train practitioners how to identify negative energies, entities, discarnate spirits, curses and things, remove them from the clients. So we bring the clients back to a sovereign space. And that, I think, is one of the biggest Well, certainly, it's the biggest thing on my life path, really, in this life, is to surface the conversation that there are these unseen negative influences that are around all of us all of the time, and they only need the smallest opportunity to walk in that door and start to kind of drive us into negative life, negative experiences, chaos, and negative thoughts, and obviously all of the places they go. So certainly a conversation that we need to talk about and surface, and obviously we're very keen to do that. So thank you for your time, folks. Hope you've enjoyed the chat, and we'll look forward to catching you again next week. Bye for now.